Hi, I'm Alex. This is Pucks and Paperbacks, where I love to shout about queer and trans books. Today, I am doing the Get to Know My Taste tag. This was created by Sam at Thoughts on Tomes and Mari at My Name's Marinez. I have been tagged by 3 of my friends, Kathy, Beck, and Audrey, so it's time for me to finally do it. I will link all of their videos down below so you can watch them. As the tag implies, you're getting to know my reading taste, so I'll be answering questions that ask me about certain aspects of my reading life, and I'm excited to finally get into it. Let's get started. The first question is, how do you rate books? I'm somebody who doesn't rate books. Over the last 2 years, I just stopped doing it. It does not help my enjoyment of the book. I just constantly felt like I was thinking about what star rating it was, and that took away from my enjoyment. I would get to the middle of the book and be like, is this a 3-star? Is this a 4-star? And I just had so much trouble actually putting a star rating to a book because I would just be like, I don't know. I don't think any of this really matters. So I decided, why don't I just stop doing that? And I did. I try my best to tell everybody because I realize that people can click on my video and it's the first time they've ever seen me. And I try my best, but it doesn't always get across. So I have added a little disclaimer at the bottom of my description, and I try to add this little graphic into my vlogs specifically, and I let you know at the top of my reading wrap-ups just in case somebody doesn't know that I don't rate books. So since I don't star rate, the way I evaluate books is by my personal enjoyment, if I enjoyed the characters, and overall I feel when I review, I'm reviewing the story. Did I enjoy parts of the story? Did I think some parts dragged too much? And that way of reviewing helps me more than it would to just say it's a 3-star or a 4-star, because I would rather explain myself than somebody just see that I gave a book a 4-star and that tells them if I like the book or not. I'm so happy for everybody that star ratings work for. I wish I could be that person, but I'm not. I feel that my reviews are in depth enough that I don't need to give a star rating. How do you approach reviewing books? What's your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, or structured? I would say I'm a mixture of casual, structured, and personal, with personal probably being at the top. If you have watched any of my videos and reviews, you'll know that I always like to draw from personal connections. As somebody who's neurodivergent, I am constantly connecting to books, and it's really annoying sometimes because when I'm reading, I will see something that I relate to or like something that has happened to me, and I start thinking about that thing. I always have a personal connection to a book. It's just how I am, and it's how I am able to relate to the world. I think that is where I get my best reviews because I'm able to tell a little story about myself, plus how that is connected to me through a character or something. For example, when I read The Prospects, I was able to draw from the experiences of Luis, who has anxiety, and talk about how seen I felt through his character. But that's not always the case, and you don't always have to have a personal connection to a book to enjoy it. So that's where I'm also a casual reviewer. I feel like I'm not as in depth. That's something that I'm always thinking about when I'm editing videos is, did I talk enough about the book? Did I review it enough that somebody will understand what I'm trying to say? That is one of my biggest anxieties as a creator, is that I am not saying enough. That's why I feel like I'm more of a casual reviewer, because I'm not going to depth about the writing and the grammar and if this made sense and if they use too many commas or something like that. I am not that type of reader because I don't feel like that's my lane to be talking about if this was written wrong. I care more about the story and the characters, but I'm not afraid to mention if I think the book should have been written a different way. But if I do meet a book where I'm not jiving with the writing style, I will of course always mention that. Especially if I feel like some things are too redundant, especially in cases where the author has used the same word over and over. I had that problem with Emily Henry where she just kept reiterating the same exact wording, and it just bothered me so much. I'll get to that question later, but that is something I would point out. But overall, I feel I'm more of a personal and casual reviewer, but I do like to structure my reviews, which is funny because sometimes I feel like I'm just all over the place and rambling, and I catch that when I'm editing because sometimes I can just keep repeating the same thing over and over. Thank goodness for editing, because sometimes I just ramble on and on, but I do try and structure my reviews as well as I can to tell you about why you would like it, what I liked about it, the characters, the character development, and then I give a little conclusion. That's how I write my reviews as well. What's the book that made you a reader? I have a couple books here. I'm gonna start from childhood and then high school age. Mark Brown, I used to read his books every night before bed. It's Not Easy Being a Bunny by Marilyn Sadler, illustrated by Roger Bolin. This was one of my favorite books, along with Corduroy. I do have a copy of that, I just don't have it in my hand at the moment. I actually did a video a couple years ago where I read some of my childhood favorites, so I'll link that up above for you. I read these along with a Lizzie McGuire book and some other fun things. I've talked about this on my channel over the years, but I was not a good reader. I had very poor reading comprehension that led me into remedial reading in community college, and that is how I even started this channel and became a reader. An assignment for that class was to log books that you were reading. You had to actively be reading. So I started with Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan, and that is the book that got me into reading. I also have a reading vlog for that. I reread it and it was very interesting, so I'll link that above as well. Do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate toward, or do you read widely across genres? Past me would say yes, and I could probably still say yes, but I have expanded my reading since 2014. I strictly used to just read contemporary. I do still stick with my contemporary settings, but I have dipped my toe into some cozy fantasy and cozy sci-fi, and I'm really enjoying those genres. I've also started reading a lot of memoirs and nonfiction over the last 5 years. When I think about my favorite genres, I don't just think about contemporary anymore. My top 3 favorite genres would be contemporary, romance, and nonfiction, or like biography memoir. I know that's 4, but I love memoirs and I love just getting to know more about the world and facts and things like that. But I also love my queer romances and my YA contemporaries. Do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? Character. If I read a plot-driven story, which I don't read often, I kind of get bored. Unless you're really gripping me, I gravitate towards the characters. I want to root for the characters, I want to know what they're about, and I want to see them develop throughout the book. I feel like that's also where my personal connection stuff comes in, because I want to connect to a character versus if I'm just reading for the plot and the characters are off to the side, I'm probably gonna get bored. What's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? What's one book that you love enough for everyone? This is so tough. Like, what could I even answer for this? I don't even know. I might actually have to skip this question. That is all sarcasm because you probably know what my answer is. Icebreaker by A.R. Roside. I totally understand if people don't like this, because there are some things that people don't like. I could also say Stay Gold by Talia McSmith, because I know that that can be a divisive book. I am Icebreaker's #1 fan. I love that everybody's been telling me they've been reading it. It makes me so happy, especially because everybody's really been enjoying it. I am just happy that I can continue to spread the word about this wonderful book. What's a book you love so much that if somebody doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? I have 2 Emery Lee books here. I've chosen Meet Cute Diary and Cafe Con Leche by Emery Lee. I've chosen these specifically because they're queer and trans YA romances. I just love messy queers, and these 2 books are the epitome of that trope. So if you don't like messy queers, our reading tastes are not going to align. But But I could also say if you don't like Emery Lee, our reading tastes are not going to align whatsoever. The next question is, what's in your trash pocket? Books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad, but you love them anyway. I don't have anything for this question, so I'm going to skip it, but let me know your answer in the comments. Do you have any deal breakers in books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off from a book. Transphobia if it's used as a plot device. If we are just putting transphobia in here for the character to experience it, I don't like that, and it's going to make me feel a certain way about the book and possibly DNF it. Unless it's there for a reason, like we have in Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan. I'll also say romances that have a cutesy cover but no content warnings, and then you're jump scared when there are heavy topics and graphic topics and subjects being described. There are several romance books that this has happened to me, and it makes me so incredibly angry as a reader and a reviewer because it's just that easy to put content warnings. I advocate for trigger warnings to be in every single book. I do not care what genre or demographic it is. We need to stop having romance books that talk about child abuse or drunk driving, and there is no content warnings. Storygraph is a great resource to find trigger warnings for books, but it's not always going to be there. And when I'm reading romances with cutesy covers, I don't expect there to be big topics like that, especially if they are graphic. Maybe it's going to be mentioned if I find the characters have some traumatic past or something like that, then it's assumed that something like that's going to happen. But when the synopsis doesn't say that, I get jump scared. What's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year, whether it's overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share? I don't really have strong opinions about books usually, but the only book I could think about was Goaltender Interference, which is just a me problem. I just didn't think the Second Chance Romance was enough, and I think this was an instance just where these two characters are just vibing and like hanging out with each other, and I needed way more development in the book. It was so boring for me. It just told me that this is not the type of story that I like to read. I wouldn't say that this is a strong opinion, but I know this book has a really big audience. I'm so happy it has an audience because it is by a non-binary author. It has Armenian representation. The hockey writing is really well done. I just didn't understand why everybody loved it. I just needed more story, and I felt like the characters were not really talking to each other. That is another thing that I don't really like in books, is when we have miscommunication as like 30-year-olds. And I understand that is reality, and 30-year-olds usually are not as mature as you would like them to be, and that can happen in real life. But third act breakups and miscommunication drives me through a wall. It's so annoying to me, especially if the third act breakup doesn't make any sense. I'm fine if the third act breakup makes sense, but sometimes I just wish that romance authors would do something different. What do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out to you? Is it prose, style, themes, voice, structure, or something else? I like strong dialogue. I'm somebody that if you give me a book like several people are typing, where it's just all dialogue, I have so much fun, and that is the character-driven person in me. It's also probably the fanfic reader in me. I want all of the conversations, the dialogue, getting to know the characters. It's also why I prefer to read first person over third person. I still read third person, but my ideal book would have first person. I also love books that are written in verse, and if they have a beautiful prose, like a Quake Mezi, for instance. I also love when each chapter has a date or tells us who's talking. I get so confused reading historical fiction when the chapter headers don't tell us what date it is or even where we are. I need to know what day it is, the setting, and everything. I need to be immersed into the story and just knowing all of the details. How do you decide what to read next? I have a whole video about this on Patreon. I shared a plan with me video last month, and then I did an extended version for Patreon, and I shared some secrets. So if you're interested in that, my Patreon link is down below. It's the best way to support me as a small trans creator who is not monetized. But I also make BookTube content twice a week, and I read for content. I love to do themed reading vlogs. I have my series TBR Tackle, where I tackle 2 books from my physical TBR each month with a twist. Usually it is a fun theme. Recently I had Pinterest pick my TBR, where I went through my Pinterest feed and I picked out aesthetics that I thought fit a book on my shelf and read it. So normally that is how I pick my TBR, but I strategically pick for books that I want to read. I am not a creator who reads because of something being popular. I just find fun concepts that would make it fun for me to read and would be entertaining on YouTube. But I'm always thinking about my own personal enjoyment first. That is the main way, but I do love to do yearly reading challenges and prompts. That is the easiest way to get me to read, is if I have a prompt or a bingo board or something like that. So readathons help, and for my Patreon, I decide a book each month that I'm going to create a spoiler reading vlog for on my top tier, the Bookish Bundle at $10. Either it is a suggestion from one of my patrons or I pick the book myself. Here on my channel, I specifically read queer books, but for my overall reading, I want to make sure I am diversifying my reading by making sure I'm reading from authors of color, translated works, authors outside of the Western lens, indigenous authors, Palestinian authors, disabled authors, and queer BIPOC authors. I also make an effort to be reading from Black authors, and that is the type of content that I want to uplift here on my channel, and those are the creators that I want to promote and be watching, because we should be collectively uplifting all of these marginalized authors because they don't get the marketing tools, and it's very important to be decolonizing your shelves and reading diversely. That is the message that I bring to this channel. Where do you get inspiration for your BookTube content? Here. Usually I am in the shower or I'm on a walk, or it is late at night and I am thinking about so many things. I'm always thinking about YouTube. I have a whole Notion spreadsheet that is just filled with all of my content ideas. My notes app is filled with it, and whenever I'm watching other booktubers or just other creators, I have taken so much inspiration from food content creators specifically, because that is something I watch. I don't watch a lot of BookTube. I only watch certain people and people that I enjoy to watch, but besides that, I'm usually watching Sims content, or I'm watching food creators or a video essay. So I get most of my inspiration from non-BookTube channels. For example, my video last year where I read books from bookstores' latest Instagram posts came from a food channel that I started watching. If you could make one book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention, and why? I have 2 books here. I am on my mission to make everybody read Icebreaker and have it be the most popular book with that title. I wish more people would read this, especially the people that love hockey romances, though if they could just do it respectfully, because this is a YA, and I would hope that people could be nice and not be creepy about it. That's the best way I can put it. My most recent read, this queer romance, The Next Chapter by Camille Kellogg. This pays homage to the movie Notting Hill, following Jude, a queer bookseller, and Kat, a former child star. Kat has realized she's queer and she wants it to be a publicity stunt. Kat's career has plateaued, and once she figures out she's queer, her manager decides that she should show that she has a girlfriend, and that could be how she comes out. So she decides to use Jude as that pawn. But as they spend more time together, she realizes she actually has feelings for her. This is so good. I am not going to stop thinking about it or talking about it because I had so much fun reading it, and I will not shut up about it. I hope more people will read it, and then I will have done my job successfully. And the last question is, who are some booktubers that have similar reading taste to you? This was so difficult for me because I still read YA and I don't know many that do. Alex at Novels with Alex comes to mind. She reads more high fantasy, but I feel like our romance and YA reading taste align. Of course, Audrey at Perpetual Pages, they read more genres than I do, but they are somebody who specifically likes to read BIPOC and queer books. If you're looking for more resources about queer books, Audrey is a great follow. Kathy is another one. She reads a lot of queer books. She's the creator of the Queer Lit Readathon. She reads a ton of different genres and demographics, but she also still reads YA contemporary from time to time. Beck at Mooney Reads by Starlight, they read more like history and nonfiction, but I would say our tastes still align because they read a bunch of queer books and it doesn't matter what demographic or genre it is. If you want more nonfiction and like academia, this is who you should be following. If I'm looking for romance, I go to at Mina Reads. Mina has a diverse selection of romances, from polyamory to monogamy, queer romances, black romances. She's my go-to for romance recs. Riley Marie is another one. She reads a lot of romance and queer books, but she also talks about horror, mystery, and thriller. Those are some genres that I don't often pick up, but I would say for the most part, some of our reading taste aligns. I'm also going to shout out yllou Talks Books. She is a trans femme who talks all about literary fiction, sci-fi, and fantasy, but I go to her for manga and lit fic recommendations. I love her channel. I'm also going to pop in Rachel at Reads with Rachel here. I love her so much. She uplifts banned books and talks about how harmful banning books is, and is a huge advocate to fight against book banning and does so in her own community. I'm popping her in here because she does read YA, middle grade, and children's. I love that she talks about children's books on her channel. It makes me so happy because children's books are not just for adults, but she does have children, so she talks about which picture books her children are enjoying and which chapter books they're enjoying. It is so important for us to be reading picture books as adults. In my day job, I work with children's books and I just love them so much. But Rachel does talk about YA, middle grade. She also has a review of my favorite book, Icebreaker, and I'll link that down below. Rachel is a great follow if you're not following her already. She does do critical reviews, but she's hilarious and I love the way that she uses her platform for good. And last is Michelle at Thor Wants Another Letter. She reads a lot of romance. For the most part, our reading taste aligns. She reads YA, middle grade, and adult, as well as a ton of romance, but she also prioritizes reading Indigenous authors. If you're interested in any of these creators, I'll link them down below. And that is the end of this tag. Thanks so much for watching and clicking on this video. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Kathy, Audrey, and Beck for tagging me in this. I finally did it. This was such a fun tag. Let me know your answers to any of the questions in the comments. I would love to know, especially if you have an answer for the question about your trash reading tastes. I would love to know. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and leave a comment. It really helps me out. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Alex. I'm a trans man who loves to uplift queer and trans books. And if any of these questions pertain to your reading life, feel free to hit subscribe so you will get more book recommendations that align with your reading tastes. Thank you to my top patrons for their support this month. It means the world to me. If you would like to support me over on Patreon, the link is down below. You will get exclusive content every month, and I would love to have you a part of the Paperback Pals. If you'd like to watch more, I'll link my past video here and you can subscribe there.